Representative Kenner.
Here.
Representative Larson. Representative Schwartz.
Here.
Representative Simpson.
Here.
Representative Stiff.
Here.
Representative Walters. Chairman Nicholas is here.
Hey, so what we're going to do, committee, is we're going to quickly do two re-referrals. We're going to do House Bill 91, and then we're going to adjourn because we've got about 55 or plus budget amendments that we have to review for this morning to argue on the floor. So we're going to be a little bit busy. So with that, first re-referral, we've got wild horses and burros management. This is a re-referral on the appropriation. If you go to the back of the bill, you'll see that our good friends in the Agricultural Committee want to spend $2 million on our controlling burros and wild horses. Do we have any recommendations or amendments? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Moving to,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
I would move do pass on the bill.
Second.
And then, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
make a motion to delete section 2, which is the appropriation.
I second that, Mr. Chairman, and then would ask the good sponsor to help us understand. We've had some discussion on that, and I think it's not arbitrary that we're doing that. There's some rationale behind that, and we've asked the good reader of that amendment to.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
expound.
I'm just not sure that $2 million will really amount to much productive effort in this endeavor, but rather be just throwing more money in the wind. The federal government spends hundreds of millions a year managing and working on these wild horse and burro issues and still struggle with the issue. Further, they are a federal issue, and I don't know that we would have enough say in what is taking place. And I just fear that we're wasting money.
Well, I can't tell by the bill exactly what the money is going to be spent on.
And Mr. Chairman, I would modify that, not deleting all of section 2, just subsection A of section 2. The subsection B is a report back on what they've done, and I don't know that that's an issue, but I take that for
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
thought.
And so I don't think there's anybody in the legislature, and probably not a whole lot of people in the state that would argue against the need to try and find some sort of remedy with the management of wild horses and the impacts they're having on, actually not only on state lands, but on federal lands. I think we agree that the Department of Interior is not in compliance with their management program and how that ought to be done. But then when you look at this bill, which is to try and recuperate costs for management on non-federal land, then that would, and you look particularly down in that checkerboard area, then a large portion of that is private lands. And so then what's the duty of the landowner for controlling
Fence out.
livestock without fence out, or if these are deemed similar to what wildlife is, then that's kind of considered to be the same as you'd be part of the environment. And so I don't know that we have in place the mechanism to really effectuate to the best of our ability the money that they have appropriated. Although I think the work is worthwhile, and I think that we do have to, any way we can, engage to try and get this problem rectified. But I would just add that in agreement with the good representative's motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For my neighbor, I know at times we choose to just zero the dollar out. I'm wondering if that's another option, or if it does make sense to just delete that whole section. I guess I'd like to understand that a little better.
So in their footnote, they have contractual services, the 900 series. 222,000 for the year 2022. And then 888,000 for 23. And does anyone see where that, how that is to be appropriated? What it's going to be used for?
Mr. Chairman, to the question of why eliminating all of section 2, because all of section 2 is the appropriations, the dollar value, but then also it discusses how the appropriations will be used. And so I would consider that all to be within the purview of a re-referral. Without the money, the rest of section 2 really makes no sense.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just in support of the motion to strip out the money, I'm just having a hard time telling what they intend to use the money for. I know in my corner of the state, I think how it's being managed now is there's a consent decree between the federal government and, for example, the Rock Springs Grazing Association that I think mitigates this problem to some extent. But I can't say that I'm an expert in and don't know how it plays out in the rest of the state.
Simpson.
Mr. Chairman, it appears to me that the money is directly intended to support the governor in his efforts, whatever he wants to do there. I think we don't have any money in. It's just a mandate with no money, and it's probably going to fall by the wayside. So I'm going to vote against the amendment.
So how can the governor, what good is it giving $2 million to the governor? Because we're asking for a report from OSLI. And then in that report, they can do from staffing. They don't need money to do that. The governor can take his executive authority, meet with BLM and come up with a game planning. But the money's not going to do any good unless he's going to actually go implement it by removing horses. But for now, we're not going to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest it's just administrative costs. I think it's going to take a lot of effort to coordinate and do all this. And we're just trying to provide some extra money so that he doesn't have to rely on his existing resources.
Okay, further comments? Representative Schwartz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be in support of the amendment. It seems a little incongruous to accept $1 billion of aid from the federal government and then authorize $2 million to thumb our nose at the federal government.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No,
That motion carries. As amended. You pass as amended. Roll call, please.
To be clear, please, you took out paragraph B of section 2, and then you put it back in. So
Correct.
is it in or out?
All of
So
section 2.
all of section 2 is gone. Okay,
So, yeah, that means you renumber section 3.
yes, thank you. Let's see, House Bill 5 do pass as amended. Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson,
aye.
Representative Stith,
Aye.
Representative Walters,
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas,
Aye.
all ayes.
Okay, House Bill 105. This is the severance tax coal reduction from 7% to 6.5%. My understanding is that this equates to roughly a $6 million a year tax cut at the current production rates. It's also my understanding that price of coal right now is over $21 a ton. Highest, still the highest it's been since the 1970s. And so I would suggest that they probably don't need a tax cut right now. Production is up 10% from last year. So I would make a recommendation that we do not pass.
So moved. Move do not pass.
We do not pass. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I guess one of the interesting issues is from a theoretical point of view, we tax oil and gas at 6%, coal at 7%. This would make coal 6.5 closer to oil and gas. And I've just never really had a good explanation of why we treat coal differently than oil and gas.
I've seen several different explanations of it, but the primary one, because we don't tax deep coal at 7%. Surface mining, because of the efficiencies and the amount of product, that's how it got to 7% is my understanding.
And I'm trying to remember, Mr. Chairman, I think deep coal, is it 4 or 5?
4 or 5. Yeah. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, roll call.
Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson,
Aye.
Representative Stiff,
Aye.
Representative Walters,
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
All ayes
Saving
for a,
taxpayer dollars.
for a do not
Front of
pass.
your very eyes.
Mr. Chairman, for a do not pass motion.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's go to House Bill 91. Any public comment on House Bill 91? Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Dave Davis. I am the Sweetwater County Assessor. I'm also the president of the Wyoming County Assessors Association. And I am representing myself and our association today in front of you. Just a little clarification. Last time the salaries, the maximum was removed from the statute, it changed in 2011 is when that maximum was put in place. And the way the statutes are written, if that maximum is not changed before the next election, it cannot be changed till after a term is over. So this change that we're asking you to implement with House Bill 91, if it's not done in this session, nothing can be changed until 2027. It's just a very, very long time for that to not be adjusted. I mean, the problems with this statute started with the county attorney's office. They had deputies that were making more than the elected officials. Recently, that's also filtered into the county sheriff's offices. They are now having deputies that make more than the elected official. Recently, it actually leaked into an assessor's office as well. I don't think any of these employees are overpaid. I just think the maximum has got the salaries of the elected officials handcuffed. And what we're just asking for you today is to support this bill and let the local decision makers, the local board of county commissioners, make that decision on the elected officials in their jurisdiction on what those salaries should be. I would stand for any question.
Any questions? For them, Steve?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Davis, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you making the trip over. This is a question we've talked about before, is what kind of wage compensation studies have been done for comparable offices in, say, other jurisdictions with comparable populations? What's your sense, and is there a difference between the different offices, say for county clerk versus the sheriff versus county assessors and treasurer, for example, as to whether the current pay scale is under market or above market? I guess under market, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Stith, I can only tell you what happened in Sweetwater County. That's the only information that I'm privy to. But in Sweetwater County recently, all of our department heads got a substantial adjustment due to a salary survey. And I did try and get that to Representative Stith. I don't know if our HR director got it to him, but those salaries of those department heads jumped over the salaries of the elected officials by $20,000, $30,000, and in some cases more. We are, as elected officials, department heads. We just get elected every 4 years by the people rather than appointed by the commission. But we have salaries, we have HR issues, we have budgets, we have all of the responsibilities along with our statutory duties that the statutes require. So in fact, in my opinion, we are department heads. Now, recently in Sweetwater County, there's also been a push by our Board of County Commissioners to try and give cost of living adjustments. We're in the same position everybody else is, where we're trying to do more with less. And the phrase that's used is now it's time to pay the people doing more with less. So that's where we're headed. So I think the employees are going to get an adjustment this year. The department heads in Sweetwater County already got their adjustment. The only people that leaves out are the elected officials. And again, those local decision makers, their hands are tied due to this statute that has that maximum step. There is another bill out, I believe it's House Bill 63, that specifically deals with just the county attorney. And of the two options, I think this is a better one because in my opinion, I'm here speaking as the assessor, but the sheriff's office, I mean, if you're talking about changing the salary for the county attorney, the sheriff needs to be looked at as well. I mean, I don't know why anybody wants to be the sheriff. I'll tell you, I just don't understand it. But
You know,
that
wear a gun
compens-
and have a badge.
I'm not sure it's worth it.
So, Mr. Chairman, so can you help me? Because I think the trouble on the hang up on the county attorney is that is in statute. It needs to be adjusted. Are these others in statute as well? They are. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, yes, they are.
Okay.
There's a badge.
Okay.
Okay, we've got about 10 more minutes. Any other public comment? Come on up. Let's be brief. We're gonna kick this thing out.
Lee Livingston, Wyoming County Commissioners Association, Park County Commissioner. We stand in support of this bill. Just in casual conversations around the county, I've visited with folks about running for county attorney. And a lot of qualified folks are saying, no, the pay is not there. It's not worth it. And so we're struggling to get qualified candidates to run for these offices. And again, we just stand in support of it. Thank you.
Okay, other public comment, please come up. If there's anyone else after the next, come on up here so we can save time.
Mr. Chairman and committee, my name is Mary Langford and I have the honor of representing the county clerks of the state of Wyoming. They would be here this morning, but they're meeting with the Secretary of State to talk about election. So in their stead, they have voted yesterday during their meeting that they would encourage you to pass this bill. I have nothing else to add from the previous presentation that's been made to you or the testimony. One thing that I do know is the county attorney's bill. I think it's separated out because it does have state funding in it, where the county officials bill does not. It's local funding, local option to the commissioners when they establish their budgets. Those salaries will be set in May before the election this year, and they are set for 4 years. So that's all I have to add.
Great.
Happy to stand for any questions, and we appreciate that support.
Well, make sure you all email and contact your various representatives on the floor. Okay.
Thank you.
For your comments. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Motion on the
Move the
vote.
bill.
Second.
Moved by Representative Larson, second by Representative Walters. Amendments.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I would move to amend on page 2, line 12, replace the word district with the word circuit.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. Roll call.
Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Schwartz, Representative Simpson,
Aye.
Representative Stith,
Aye.
Representative Walters,
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
So,
Say
aye.
All ayes do pass as amended.
Okay, we will stand in recess till noon tomorrow.